Today's video is all about my animals freezing. Follow me, let's get everyone set up for the cold. All right guys, tonight it is getting into the low 40s, even high 30s here where I'm at in Florida, which for most of my reptiles is extremely deadly. So most of my reptiles are from South America, Australia, Indonesia, places where it really doesn't get that cold. Now, even though Florida is a super hot place in the United States, it still gets pretty darn cold, and West Palm Beach is almost halfway up the state. So we do get some really cold temperatures about 2 or 3 times a year. All right guys, so right now we are hooking up the red tail boa enclosure. All I'm really doing is running a heat lamp right over the box. We'll go in there and show you guys right now. Now right here we have some red tail boas. We gotta be careful because the small one is actually a little bit feisty. But as you can see, she's already found that heat. Now I have 2 black boxes in here. That black is gonna help absorb light. And what I usually do is put something right at the front of the box. That way it shines over top, it builds up heat. Typically at night, both of the snakes will coil together and their body heat will raise the temperature in there as well. But I wanna show you my big boa that was donated from Fish and Wildlife. Now this big girl right here, we're not gonna mess with too much. Now she actually is going into shed, that's why she's so dark. But that is my giant red tail boa that we rescued, which was actually found roaming around Miami. All right, those are our only outdoor snakes, so those boas are good. Let's head over to my only mammal, Nala, my African genet. Now coming into the backyard, we've actually made a few changes since our last video. We've added a bunch of eucalyptus above the croc enclosure. We've added some more tiki thatch. We've decorated Nala's cage just a little bit more. So this is Nala's cage. As you can see, she's arboreal, so we got branches going everywhere. But this animal, believe it or not, doesn't get too cold. I mean, we've had some really low nights this year, and Nala just does not care. Now, typically, we run another heat lamp right here, right on top of her cork hide, so she can go in there, get warm. But she doesn't care at all. She will not use that cork hide. She'll rarely ever sit right here. For the heat, she honestly just runs around, plays. She actually enjoys the cold a lot. But this right here is Nala, the African large spotted genet. How cool is that? Let's move over to the baby crocodiles. I got one new species I want to show you, and we got to run some water. This is my baby crocodilian area. I keep them in a secondary containment in case anything were to get out and prevent people and animals from getting in. So this right here is where I keep everything under 4 foot. We're actually constantly cycling out crocodiles. When they get too big for here, they go to the big blue tub, and then when they're too big for that, they go to the 5 acres. But right here, as you can see, we have hoses lined up to every tub. Now, the well water comes out at around 72 to 74 degrees, which is actually pretty hot when it's 37 to 43 degrees at night. So all I have to do, I ran all these tubs with hoses, everything goes under the mulch. This is a little tip, even if you have turtles or crocodiles, set up a system like this, turn it on, and there you go. Every single tub will have running water all night long. You can let it go throughout the day. It does raise up the perches and over aerates the water, makes it bubbly. But that right there is how you keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 crocodilians warm all night. All right, guys, now this right here, I haven't posted in about a month, but this right here was my newest animal. This was actually a Christmas gift from my good buddy Chandler. We've been running the water, so it floats up the perch. We have to lower the water down, and it also creates these air bubbles you see. That's not algae, that's actually air bubbles just from over aeration from the water splashing on the water all night long. But this right here,
that was smooth.
this little guy is a federally protected American crocodile. Now, if you guys follow my buddy Chandler with Chandler's Wildlife, you know he's had a bunch of these. He's had over 20 American crocodiles. He had a big group of babies, and this right here is an American croc from him, raised absolutely beautifully, grown up, got all his toes, all his teeth. Nothing is wrong with this American croc right here. But this is a super awesome gift from my buddy Chandler, and I am happy to add one more American croc to the collection. Now, a quick way you can tell American crocs from other species is if you look at his scoots, you'll see how they're really big on the sides and they're really small in the middle. So they have super random scoots. They got big scoots, little scoots. They have a real funky, sharp look to them, and they have a super long snout too. But look at that guy. He is so cool, and he's actually pretty tame. Look, not even opening his mouth, not trying to bite. I can kind of hold him without restraining him just like this, and he's pretty darn relaxed. So we're just gonna put him back nice and gently. And that right there is my new American crocodile. If you guys have a good name, comment down below. And if it's good enough, we'll name him after what you guys choose. Now, before we get to the venomous snakes and before we get to the tortoise and the other croc, I wanna show you guys one new enclosure we're building right now.
The greenery is like popping.
Now, walking over here to the very back of my yard, We have a lot of empty space. Now this is kind of just where we hang out, but we're getting ready to build a few big cages back here. If you look over here, we have a massive cage we're getting ready to build. And there's a couple different options I have for this cage. So I was thinking bird of prey. So maybe eagle owl, tawny eagle, maybe a sloth, maybe a big pair of like bat-eared foxes, something crazy, but check out this cage. These are all 6x6 poles cemented into the ground. We're gonna have super thick gauge wire on here, so we can put pretty much any animal, class 3 or class 2, but this is gonna be a super tall cage, so we can either have an arboreal animal or we can have a bird of prey. Now you may think this is kind of small for a bird of prey, but if we were to get something like a tawny eagle, it would stay in here the majority of the time. Then we would take it out, we would fly it around the property, give it exercise. But this is just a little glimpse into the future of my backyard. You never know, but this is an awesome cage. It's big enough to where you can almost put any animal in here, you know, except for a big cat or something like that. Now back here, I have, when my crocodiles overgrow that black tub, they'll get put into here. So the Nile crocodile I had back there is actually in this tub. So what we'll do is we'll get a hose, we'll run it here, we'll have water flowing into this tub for the Nile crocodile, and then my tortoise Sparky, when he's not out in the yard roaming eating grass, we put him in here as kind of a holding area. But walking back here, I just built him this little hide box. So basically I have a board that I slip in here. I can lock him in here for the cold. He's got a nice light above, and that will keep him warm. We'll throw some hay so he stays nice and warm all night long. But that right there is an African spur-thigh tortoise, the world's 3rd largest tortoise. That's actually a small one. I've seen some at Lion Country Safari that are like this big. They're absolutely massive. You would think it's like an Aldabra. But that right there is it for all the animals outside. Let's move inside to my snake room and show you guys what I do for a freezing cold night with the venomous snake. All right, entering the snake room. Now this stays pretty hot just because the hex lights and the LED lights, but at night when the temps drop down to about 40 degrees, it's hard to hold heat in here. So what I do over here, my new mini split from Everwell, all I have to do is basically take the remote, switch it from cool to sun, and that's it. I crank it up to 81 degrees. It'll stay a little bit colder, around 76 to 79, and that is enough to keep these snakes warm all night. So I can shut off the lights, and the AC unit will do all the work. Now back in the day, we used to run space heaters when I had a window shaker unit, and that is just scary. There's multiple people who have ran space heaters and actually burnt down their snake house, reptile house, stuff like that. So we're very thankful to have that mini split that actually lets us just run heat right in the room. But we do have a few snakes that just took massive dumps. We got the Gaboon Viper, just took a poop. We got the King Cobra, just took a poop. We got the Taipan and the hybrid rattlesnake and the Mengsheng Viper, all took a poop. So we're gonna add that into today's video. Let's jump right into it and start cleaning some snakes. All right guys, now the first snake we're gonna be taking out is the Puff Adder Gaboon Viper hybrid. So this guy right here is actually a pretty darn feisty snake, but it's important to remember, even in the cold winter months, you kind of want to let your snake room drop down in temperature a little bit. Now the cold weather is actually going to promote the females to ovulate, promote the males to produce sperm, and it's actually going to help them when it comes to breeding right after winter. So even though it's going to get really, really cold tonight, sometimes I adjust the temperature. That way it gets down to like 65, 70 to trick the reptiles, and then it gets them ready for breeding season in a couple months. Probably my favorite snake. I mean, I really, really enjoy this snake right here. Now he's not too bad when you get him out, but man, he's just the most beautiful snake ever. Look at that. And also a super rare snake. Now, the more and more I talk about these guys and I talk to other people, there's really none of these in the United States. I've heard of maybe one other person who has one of these, but that's it. So I'm pretty certain that I'm the only guy in the United States with a hybrid just like this. And you can see she shed, so she's got those beautiful, beautiful light yellows, mustard colors all down her back and on her head. And we're just gonna take her over here, pop her in the bin. Now we got a pretty good cycle going on when it comes to cleaning snakes. As you can see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bins open over here. So I'll take 8 snakes out, put them in the bin, clean the enclosure, put them all back, and it's nice and fast. So we can move right over to the Gaboon Viper. Now this guy is an absolute tank. These snakes have just been eating and eating and eating. And let me tell you what, I've been cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. Yeah, these Gaboon Vipers, they don't poop often, but when they do, it is a ton. It's just like the Bushmaster. Now my Bushmaster has actually gone a month without pooping or shedding. And when it does, it's a big mess, just like this big male gaboon viper. Putting on weight nicely. When I got him, he was so skinny. He almost didn't eat for about a year, which is crazy to think a snake could survive that long. But this gaboon viper went from not eating to eating live rodents, and now he's eating a bunch of frozen thawed rats every single week. Now, those of you guys who know me know that I love cobras, but I'm also starting to like vipers a lot more. Mainly because of cleaning. Cobras are so dirty, they poop everywhere. They'll poop multiple times a week. But most time vipers will poop once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. But right now I just got my big king cobra and my leucistic monocold, and that's what I'm happy with right now. So we're gonna get some more animals. We want some gabinos. There's a lot of things on my list that I wanna get. All right, now for those past two snakes, they were super heavy bodied. That's why I was using a double hook. But when it comes to the taipan, this is an elapid hook. So I'm gonna be using a lapid hook for the taipan. All right, guys, this right here is Ned, the coastal taipan, named after the outlaw bushmaster Ned Kelly in Australia. This guy has been doing very nice since completing his journey from Europe. Now, one thing I did learn about coastal taipans is if you look at them, they're really skinny, they have a super small head, and you might think that they eat super small prey. But out there in the outback, they're actually eating huge prey items. So one thing I learned is you can actually feed these coastal taipans pretty big rats, and they have no problem getting it down. Now, if you look at this taipan, his colors are actually pretty dark. Now, taipans will actually change colors throughout the year. In the winter, they're gonna have darker colors. That way they can pick up the sun's rays more. And in the summer, they're actually gonna have lighter colors to help keep them cool. And I actually got this Mengsheng viper from Chandler. He had it when he was a little baby, but he's getting pretty darn big. He's actually turning into pretty much a juvenile Mengsheng viper, putting on weight nicely. When I first got him, he was only eating live prey. Now we got him eating frozen thawed along with the black-headed bushmaster. But this Mengsheng viper right here, he will trick you. He looks docile, he looks nice, he moves slow, but in the split of an instant, this guy will start striking. So you gotta be very, very careful with the Mengsheng viper. Not to mention, there's actually no anti-venom right now. And Mengsheng vipers have some of the smoothest scales. They feel so good. They don't have keeled scales like a gaboon viper. They're very, very smooth. But look at that, look how big that Mengsheng viper is getting. Super beautiful animal. He is a male, so he's gonna have nicer colors than a female. Now that's really why I wanted a male. Now I'm not too focused on breeding Mengsheng vipers right now, so I just wanted to get the sex that looked the most beautiful, which is a male. All right, guys, last but not least, we're gonna do Shatid, the king cobra. She's the last snake we had to clean today. Now, she's getting so big, we just measured her somewhere around 11 foot. Couldn't get an exact, but a little bit under or a little bit over 11 foot, which is kind of crazy to think that Tyler Nolan raised this thing from a little baby. Now, when I got her, I think she was like 9 or 10, but she has beefed up a little bit and put on a little bit of length. Now, typically, I try to get her inside of the tub. That doesn't go so well, so most of the time, we just let her roam around the room while I quickly clean her cage. Now, we're gonna see how that goes today. Look at that, Shatid, getting nice and big. Let's see if we can get her to hood up for you guys. Look at that, nice and beautiful. Not a bad king cobra, but she will chase you down. You'll see. She starts coming towards you. Now, right now is actually king cobra mating season, and I want to show you guys something really cool. If you look at the back, you look at the end of her body, look how light her colors are right now. Now, king cobras are known to get super, super light at the beginning of mating season. Now, that's why Shatid is such a beautiful color. Now, when she shed just a few weeks ago, it was unbelievable how light she was. So you can actually tell when a king cobra is ready to breed based on the color. When they start changing color, that means they're ready to go. And we actually might throw her with Rusty because she's breeding size, or even Chandler's king cobra. We just got to get both of the snakes tested to make sure everyone's safe. All right, guys, and that is the end of today's video. All my snakes are ready to go for the freezing cold. If you guys enjoyed today's video, don't forget like, comment, the most important part, subscribe. We'll see you next time.